let's talk about the next four teams. The 49ers, we already talked about Brandon Aiyuk then trading for the 49ers, but the big one was the Packers drafting Jordan Love and trading up for him. 27, Seattle, they selected Jordyn Brooks, and then the Ravens had Patrick Queen fall to them. So, Jacob and Charlie, what are your thoughts on 26 through 28?
I'm going to start with 28 because that one was the one that was actually, I think, a good pick of these four. It's insane that teams let players just fall to the Ravens and fall in their laps. Like, Queen could have gone in the top 20, and I don't think anyone would have been upset by that. Yet he falls to 28, and he's going to be the next great linebacker in Baltimore. That should pan out pretty well for them. So well done there. They had a good draft overall. They landed quality players at literally every single pick. I think they were probably second best in my draft rankings, right behind the Vikings, just because of what they were able to do. Jordyn Brooks for the Seahawks was kind of a weird one. I gave them an F for that. But that's me partially grading on a curve because I had Brooks more of like a late second, early third round value. I know there were some teams that may have considered him early in the second. So I guess I can't blame the Seahawks for taking him if they liked him, but I just didn't think he filled a big need. I think he could be a good player at the next level. I thought he was kind of a sleeper, so he rose to the first round, which, and he had a lot of buzz at the late stages, so he could work out. I probably shouldn't have given them an F and maybe regret that in retrospect. But I probably should have given the Packers an F for their first round pick as opposed to just failing their whole draft class, which I did. The whole thing about Jordan Love is I understand that the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers and, developed him behind Brett Favre. And like, people are thinking that Jordan Love could do the same thing, and that's fine. And that might pan out. But the Packers made the NFC Championship game last year and had no shot at beating the 49ers because they didn't have enough offensive weaponry for Rodgers to target. They had Davante Adams and then a bunch of guys who don't really fit in as number two receivers. And as a result, you got Davante Adams and a bunch of, number three guys or potential backups out there and no tight end talent. And they couldn't do anything as a result. They couldn't move the ball. And they needed to get another receiver, and they had an opportunity to do that. I'm not big on T. Higgins, but, he could be a fine outside option. Maybe they trade down and get Denzel Mims, grab Chase Claypool. They had so many options at receiver there, and they just ignored the position for the entire draft. They went with Jordan Love, and then they went with A.J. Dillon, who I love, but he's the third running back there. There's no reason they needed to pick him in the second round. It just seems like a huge missed opportunity to add a receiver in a deep receiving class. Rodgers can't be happy about it because his number two receiver right now is Devin Funchess, and Funchess has always had upside and is a good possession receiver, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy or be consistent or separate. So I just think the Packers, they're planning for the future, which is fine because if Love develops, then they'll be fine when Rodgers is done. But they have a really small window to compete for a championship, and they may miss out on it because of the Love pick. So it really was not a good selection for them.
Charlie, what are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, I could talk about the Jordan Love pick all day long, so I'll try and get the greatest hits out. But Patrick Queen to the Ravens, excellent pick. I think the Seahawks should have taken him instead of Jordyn Brooks. I thought the Ravens nailed day 2 and day 3 as well. I love the J.K. Dobbins pick to them. I think, 3-4 years from now, everyone's going to be saying, what the hell? How did he get there? Another ace pick by the Ravens. Jordyn Brooks, the Seahawks evaluate things differently. We always know they're going to take someone that's off the radar, so to speak. But Brooks was a solid second rounder. I know some teams that had him in their group for early in the second round. So it's not a horrible reach, but I'm not in love with that pick. So I think Queen's a better player. Now, as far as Green Bay goes, I think Walt really nailed it on the head on draft night and then afterwards about how you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, where you couldn't, like, as Jacob said, you're in the NFC Championship game. You need more weapons for Rodgers. You turn that down for him. You also turned down Queen. Nobody thought Queen was going to get to the Packers. So They needed help at inside linebacker or offensive line. You could have considered like Isaiah Wilson, but and you traded up unnecessarily because the other teams you moved in front of weren't going to take Jordan Love. So you just wasted picks there. So I hate that. But as far as Jordan Love goes, I mean, one of the things your mistakes is you're cutting down on Rodgers' window to win a championship. He said he wants to play into his 40s. 3 years from now, Jordan Love's probably their starting quarterback because they have an out in Rodgers' contract. So you have 2 more years of Rodgers, and now you're pretty much forced to transition away from him. So I don't like putting, closing the window prematurely on a Hall of Famer's career. Because what if Jordan Love isn't as good? There's no guarantee he's going to pan out. And then you just took away years where you might win a Super Bowl. The other thing I hate about this pick is one of the big advantages in the NFL is having your starting quarterback on that rookie wage. So Mahomes with the Chiefs, Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, Wentz with the Eagles, all those guys won a Super Bowl during their rookie contract, and the teams were able to spend all over the place, really build up depth on their roster. And the Packers can't do that because they have $60 million nearly committed to Rodgers for the next 2 seasons. So you're blowing the rookie wage advantage of having a first-round quarterback in this situation. I just hate that. So I think this pick was terrible. I really don't think that I don't agree with what Green Bay was thinking there, and I don't like the A.J. Dillon pick. Like Jacob said, I think he's a fine player and fine pick, but in the second round with what they have on their team, it's not like Aaron Jones is an old running back nearing the end of the line. So I just question that one. Degura was fine in the third round, but I just did not like the Packers draft overall. I thought definitely the Packers and Eagles, you could form a great debate on which was the worst in the NFL, but it'd be those two in my opinion.
Yeah, I graded the Packers a little bit worse than the Eagles, just because the Eagles I thought had a stronger third day than the Packers did. But yeah, I mean it is brutal. And the great point, Charlie, by the way, on the rookie wage. I didn't even think of that, and I gave the pick an F before that. I think if they wanted a worse version of Jameis Winston, they could have just signed Jameis Winston. I don't know why they had to trade up for him for Jordan Love. And people compare this to Aaron Rodgers in 2005. I think that's a big mistake because first of all, Rodgers was considered to be a number 1 pick candidate for the 49ers. I actually had him mocked there for a long time. And then news came out that the Niners liked Alex Smith a little bit more. So I moved him down. And second, at the time, Brett Favre was waffling on retirement. Like people forget that he would hold press conferences almost every month and ESPN would break out of live baseball games to go to these press conferences where Brett Favre would just talk about farming. Like, and they thought that he would announce his retirement, and like Rodgers has given no indication of that. And then we saw a report today. I don't know if you guys caught this, but apparently the Packers with Matt LaFleur does not like Aaron Rodgers and he wants to move on from him. And if I'm good at constant and I see this, I'm like, maybe I should get rid of LaFleur if he can't work with Rodgers. So the fact that the Packers were so close to getting to the Super Bowl, and yeah, they needed a receiver. They also needed some help stopping the run. So going either way with those 2 picks, like if they didn't like any of the receivers here and they wanted to take a receiver in the second round, fine, just go defensive line or linebacker, like Charlie said, Patrick Queen is available. Like that would have been a great pick too. Just do something to help your team win now, because like I said before, and Charlie echoed it. They have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, basically right now. Like I think that they actually can't do this because of Rodgers' contract, but if the finances made sense, I think they should just trade Rodgers now and just move on with Jordan Love, because then, like Charlie said, they would have the benefit of having the rookie on a rookie deal. And you could sign a bunch of players. You could have a great roster. And if Jordan Love is as good as the Packers think he is, then maybe they can contend for a Super Bowl. But right now, it's kind of like they're kind of waffling, and I feel like they're a lot worse than they were last year. And I think they're probably going to go like 8-8 or 9-7. So yeah, it's just a horrible pick. Jordyn Brooks, was a surprise, but I think it was more of a surprise. I wasn't surprised that he went in the first round. I was surprised that the Seahawks went linebacker. I thought that they would go offensive line or defensive line. I thought that those are much bigger needs, and I didn't think they needed a linebacker. I was kind of shocked by that. And then, the Ravens draft was just excellent. Patrick Queen, J.K. Dobbins, all the great players they got. I didn't really have an issue with any of the players they drafted. I graded them as an A+, and not a surprise at all. All right, the last couple picks, we discussed two of these. The Dolphins getting Igbinoghene and the Vikings trading down for Gladney. So let's stick with the 29, Isaiah Wilson to the Titans. The Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I guess for a good measure, let's throw in the Colts at 34. They drafted Michael Pittman and also moved on for Jonathan Taylor. So what are your thoughts on the Titans, Chiefs, and Colts?
Yeah, I'll try to keep the thoughts brief here. I had mocked Isaiah Wilson to the Titans. It just made so much sense. They lost Jack Conklin. Wilson's a huge guy, 6'6", 350. Great run blocker at Georgia. Should do the same on the right side in Tennessee. Keep Derrick Henry and that machine churning. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, great scheme fit for Andy Reid in Kansas City. I didn't think they'd go running back in the first round. We had mocked DeAndre Swift there a couple times. I think each of us had one running back to the Chiefs at one point or another during the offseason, but they went with the guy who they think's the better fit. Can't really disagree with that. Andy Reid has had a great time with running backs throughout his career and developing them, so Edwards-Helaire should be good. I'm mad at myself about the Colts pick because I mocked them Michael Pittman with their second round pick. They went with him with the 34th. I like Pittman a lot. I think he'll be a fine number 2 receiver for them. There are some other receivers I would have taken before him, but I'm not going to penalize the Colts and Chris Ballard because he tends to find a lot of talent in the draft. And then you look at Jonathan Taylor. That was kind of like a great value pick for the Colts. They didn't necessarily need a running back, but now they have Taylor, they have Marlon Mack, they have Nyheim Hines. So they have a lot of depth there. Phillip Rivers, we saw him have success with 2 running backs in Los Angeles last year. So, maybe they view Taylor as the every down back and Mack as a terrific backup and Hines as an Austin Eckler type who can play as a receiver in the slot or out of the backfield. So I like what the Colts did a lot. I think they were solid and really don't have an issue with any of these picks. I think they all fit really well with what the teams are trying to accomplish.
Charlie, what are your thoughts on these?
Really don't have an issue with any of these picks. I think they all fit really well with.
Sorry about that. I'm hearing Jacob on a delay. But no, I definitely think that Wilson pick made sense for the Titans. I had them taking Christian Fulton, who they got in the second round. And I think as a pair, those picks really come in and help their team as far as solid players that have played a lot in the SEC and gone up against good players. I think Wilson's a bit more on the raw side than Fulton is, but I think those for where they're picking late in the first round and late in the order on day 2, that makes sense. Shocking to see Andy Reid go running back early, but like Jacob said, you can't argue with the scheme fit. I could see this being Brian Westbrook 2.0, maybe even better, considering Pat Mahomes is a better quarterback than Donovan McNabb was. So really nice pick there for the Chiefs. And then the Colts, I think getting a receiver with size made a lot of sense for them, given Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton. I think they could have used a big physical guy, and that's what they got with Michael Pittman. And I love the Jonathan Taylor pick for them. I'm not sure how they're going to manage to get enough carries to both him and Mack, but that's a good problem to have. And I think that's a really excellent 1-2 tandem. And as Jacob said, with Hines as a receiving back, that really, I think, can help take the pressure off of Phillip Rivers, who looked like you're seeing some signs of age, especially last year. So giving him a vigorous running game, I think, definitely makes sense.
Yeah, I like the Colts did a lot. I love the roster already. When they had Andrew Luck last year, they were my pick to win the Super Bowl. And obviously with with Luck gone, I changed that. But with Rivers now, assuming Rivers isn't completely shot, like I feel like they have a chance now with the upgrades they made, like getting a second receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. will help a lot. And they also have Paris Campbell from last year and Jonathan Taylor. Like they have so much firepower on offense now. So they should be good, assuming Rivers doesn't really regress. The Chiefs with Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, I think they really wanted Jeff Gladney when the Vikings snatched him off the board. They kind of had to pivot, and Andy Reid is not known for taking running backs in the first round. It's not something he likes to do. Same thing with linebackers. He just prefers to address the trenches or go receiver cornerback. But it's 32 is basically the second round anyway, and usually Charlie always points this out. Like teams usually have like 25 first round grades on players. And so when you're 32, you're basically taking a second rounder anyway. So I think Edwards-Helaire makes a lot of sense. He's great for their offense because he can catch passes, and that offense should be so explosive next year. It's going to be even more fun to watch than it was last year. So I'm looking forward to that. And Titans, it was a rock solid, pick. Isaiah Wilson should be a decent replacement for Jack Conklin. They needed that. So it made a lot of sense. Titans had like a pretty prototypical draft for them. No surprises there.